Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon you all. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, viewers and listeners, we are inviting you to watch our live talk show today, broadcasted by London Islamic Research Academy. We'll be discussing about unity in diversity. It's a very important topic. To bring peace in the society, harmony in the society, we need to discuss about this. We need to find the point for unity, the platform for unity, despite having all diversities. This is the beauty of the Creator. He has created diversity in everything. If you look at the sun and moon, you see the days and nights, you see the ocean, the wave, and you see the species in the ocean and seas. They have diversity in the sizes, in the habits, in the food. You see on the land, you see mountain, you see trees, plants. You can see desert. You can see the diversity in everywhere. We can see diversity in the jungles, in the animals, different type of animals and differences in the jungles, in the inhabitants of the jungles. And also we can see diversity in human, in color, in culture, in sizes, in outlook, in everything. There is a diversity. It's a beauty of the world because the God, the Creator, He has created everything in a diverse way so that we can enjoy the diversity. This topic is very important. We'll be discussing about this topic. And if you like this discussion, would like to request you, please, you comment, share, and also subscribe our London Islamic Research Academy YouTube channels. So without further delay, I would like to invite our honorable guest today. We have invited some prominent scholars. They are experts in this field. They have researched. They have been working to bring peace in the society. They have been working in the faith groups. So first and foremost, I would like to invite our honorable guest who is joining all the way from Australia. You know the differences in the times. Now is morning, it's 2:30 in Australia. So he's sacrificing his comfort and he's sacrificing sleeping time today to join and share his thoughts. So before I bring him in the studio, I would like to say a few words about our honorable guest. That is Dr. Rashid. He's a scholar. He is a director of IFSA and IBA Group, Australia. He is the author of different books and articles. A very important book he has written regarding Quran called The Book That Contains No Doubt. It's a beautiful research-based book he has written. So let's invite our guest, Dr. Rashid, to the studio.
Hi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Welcome to our talk show, Dr. Rashid.
Thank you very
for
much.
sacrificing your time. We are very thankful to you. We'll come back to you after inviting our other guests. So please bear with us.
That's fine.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite our next guest. He is also a very prominent faith leader. He has been working with the faith groups entire life almost, and I've been working with him for a long time. He is the ambassador of peace. I mentioned in our last program about him elaborately today in brief. He is the faith leader, he is the ambassador of faith, and who visits all religious institutions. That is Dr. Peter Rooks. Let's welcome our honorable guest.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Peter.
Hi.
How are you? Your sound is not very clear. If you can check your sound system, please. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me now. Okay.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. And I'm delighted to be with you again. And I'm really looking forward to discussing these interesting topics.
Okay, thank you very much. Please bear with us. We are coming back to you after inviting some other guests. Our next guest is again Very close friend of mine. He is also peace-loving faith leader. He has been visiting many places, many countries to spread the message of faith and peace. And he is the pastor of 2 churches in here. Mr. George King, he is the pastor of Baptist Church in Stratford, UK. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much
Hi.
for your welcome, and greetings from Stratford and Birmingham, England.
Okay, thank you very much. Please bear with us. We are coming back in discussion. Thank you very much again. Brothers and sisters, viewers and listeners, we have the final guest. He's a scholar, Islamic scholar, writer, speaker, and also he is heavily involved in charitable works. That is Dr. Abu Ibrahim. Shaykh Dr. Abu Ibrahim, let's welcome him. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Shaykh?
Alhamdulillah. And thank you for inviting me to this show today.
Okay, thank you very much. So please bear with us. We are embarking on our discussion. So viewers and listeners, we have some question for discussion today. First of all, we'll try to understand the topic, unity in diversity. It's beautiful, sounds very beautiful as a topic. So let's try to understand what is unity and what is diversity. So my first question will go to Dr. Peter. As I mentioned, he is very heavily involved in this kind of discussion and discourses. Dr. Peter, if you can explain what you mean by unity in diversity.
Okay, yes, thank you. When we think about diversity, we think about what is different. And what is different, we think about faiths very quickly. We think about ethnicity. We think about people who maybe are disabled in some way. So there's a whole range, and gender, a whole range of differences that we have. Unity, I think, is recognizing that we all are different, but that diversity brings a richness. And it's our willingness to respect that difference, keen to understand that difference, but learning to work together, because we all have a common purpose. And last weekend was the anniversary of Joe Cox Foundation, Joe Cox MP, who was murdered, you remember. She had this saying, didn't she, in her maiden speech, we have more in common than that which divides us. And we had an important, great get-together last weekend when we recognized those differences and we committed ourselves to working together. That's my introduction. And as Secretary of the Birmingham Council of Faiths, I'm working with people of all different faiths and all ethnicities. And in Birmingham, where I live, which I live by choice, I really enjoy that richness that we have within our society, which people from all parts of the world bring to our interesting and lovely city.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Peter. We'll be trying to understand the topic from other guests as well, because this is very important. We understand unity in diversity. Diversity means differences. And when we talk about diversity, it means we are splitting. But despite the splits and differences, how we can bring the unity together? Let's try to understand from our other guest as well. So I would like to invite Dr. Rashid from Australia. Dr. Rashid, could you explain in Australia how you explain or interpret unity in diversity?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the God, the most forgiving and the most merciful. The word, obviously, my specialty is on the study on the Quran. The word here, the chapter 4 starts with Ya Ayyuhan Nas, O humanity. So the God is actually addressing not believers only, Islamic believers or believers in Islam. It is He is addressing the humanity because He is the creator of humanity. So He is addressing to humanity with this strong message, very clear-cut, outstanding, outspoken way. Ya ayyuhan nas, O humanity, ittaqu rabbakum, be mindful of your God. Be mindful of your Lord. Taqwa means to be mindful and to be aware and conscious. So what he's saying, yes, enjoy your life, but don't forget there is someone who gave you the life. So if we take life to be a benefit, there has to be a benefactor and a beneficiary. Life is benefit, there is no doubt. So there has to be a beneficiary, and there is me. It's exhaustive solution. And there has to be also an exhaustive mechanism, is there has to be a benefactor. So the question is, who is the benefactor? Not me, not my father, he had to die poor man, not my grandfather. So who is benefactor? Well, the answer is only one, the one who gave me life. So God says, that is me, be mindful of me. Enjoy your life, do everything I gave you, but don't forget there is destination. So that is called diversity. In that Creator created us differently, colored, non-colored, in the different situations, different environments. But again, as we don't like the same food every day, we like diversity. So God says that is the part of you. The taste I created in you for you to enjoy it. Don't detest it. So that is the message very clearly stated in the Quran in chapter 4, the verse number 1. Oh, humanity, be mindful of your Lord, the one who created you from one single soul, which is Adam. Then he created from him his wife, the Eve, and from there, Rijalan Kathira wa Nisa, many men and women are being created. So you all belong to one root. Be mindful of that and be mindful of me. There is a prime message of the Quran, and that has been addressed to humanity, not to Muslims, not to Christians only. So if you are part of the humans, go for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Beautiful interpretation of the topic. We'll be listening from other two guests as well. I would like to ask now Mr. George King. Mr. George King, he has visited many countries, and of course, he's originally from Canada, if I'm not wrong, and he lives in UK. And of course, he used to stay in many other countries. So he lived in even more diverse environment. So we'll be listening from him about unity and diversity in his understanding. Yes, Mr. George King, please.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, unity is a very interesting word. Because we sometimes confuse it with uniformity, and we sometimes think that in order to have unity and to be able to get along and things like that we all have to be the same. But that's not the case at all. Uniformity is when you try to make everything fit a particular mold, but unity allows different shapes and different sizes of people all fit together with their diversity. And this is reflected really beautifully, I think, in our own congregation, where we have people from 6 different continents who all worship together, and only half of the congregation actually have English as their mother tongue. So you have this beautiful arrangement where people from all different backgrounds and having that diversity can have unity and get along with each other and be on the same page in regards to their worship and their feelings towards one another as well. You know, you can have unity even though you're not the same, and you can get along with each other too, even though you're not the same.
Okay, thank you very much. That's beautiful understanding of unity in diversity. Our next guest is Dr. Abu Ibrahim. Dr. Abu Ibrahim, you are involved in a multicultural society in different activities. So, of course, you are Islamic scholar as well. Could you explain your understanding about unity in diversity, please?
Yes, I think firstly, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum to all our viewers that are watching, and welcome as well. I think, firstly, this topic of unity and diversity, you're picking 2 elements which are quite polar opposites. So when we talk about unity, that means coming together, joining together. So there has to be like a common purpose for having that sense of belonging, to be united. So that is one aspect we need to understand. And the other word, which is diversity, which means being different, not being the same. There's something distinct about you being different. Now, I know you mentioned me and introduced me as being a British imam and a scholar. I think one of the things when we look even from a personal perspective, living in a multicultural society, especially myself living in the UK, in the city of London, is you have to be comfortable with multiple identities. One moment you're a British citizen, so it's linked to a land and sovereignty. And then you have faith, which is your religion, so I'm a Muslim. And then I have an origin, ethnic origin, which is Bangladeshi, which is also linked to the language, which is the Bengali language. So we have multiple identities. And all of this is something that we as human beings, we need to appreciate and embrace, and also have in our conversation. This is what we need to do. And I think the other speakers, our esteemed speakers, have already mentioned that our origin is, first and foremost, that we're human beings. We have a common origin, which is that we're in Arabic called Ibn Adam, the son of Adam, which means human beings. And then, subhanAllah, we come together because of this commonality in the first place for the betterment and well-being of mankind. And that's when we look to our differences, and what we do, we put our differences aside or appreciate our differences and come together for the common purposes. So we appreciate the diversity, but unity here is coming together for a common purpose. And that's what I believe the topic of unity in diversity means, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's beautiful interpretation of your understanding about unity and diversity. Let's go back to Dr. Peter. We can see the diversity in everywhere, even if we look at the climate, season, if we look at seas, oceans, forests, other creatures. It's beautiful in my view. How do you explain the beauty of this diversity?
It goes back to creation, of course, the way that God created the world. And in his wisdom, he created the world in this rich and diverse way. Everything is diverse. If we look at trees, we have a whole range of different types of trees. If we look at flowers, we have a whole range of different colors, different shapes. If we look at the sky, we look at the stars, we look at the people around us. We look at the animals on the earth. We look at the birds in the sky. They're all different. And there is that diversity. And it is that diversity which gives us the richness, is what makes our life interesting. And one of the things that I think a lot of British people like about this country is the weather is so diverse. I think if the weather wasn't so changeable, English people wouldn't know what to talk about. You know, whenever we meet people, we always comment on the weather. You know, I lived overseas for 12 years. I lived 8 years in Papua New Guinea and 2 years in Maldives, and time in Kenya, Uganda, Malawi, and lots of those places. The weather doesn't have the same day-to-day variation. It has seasons, but not the day-to-day variation. So, you know, when we're planning an event in England, it's always difficult to pick a day when you know the sun is going to shine. You think if you go pick a day in July, you know, the sun will be shining, but then, you know, it can be raining. So we have that diversity in the weather. Okay, and you know,
it was raining today as well. Yesterday. What a coincidence.
Oh, well, that's right. That's right. And it's that same diversity amongst people, isn't it? You know, we have color skins. You know, some of us are taller than other people. Other people are shorter. You know, some people have different intellectual characteristics. You know, they're good at this. Somebody's good at playing the piano. You know, somebody is good at art. Somebody is good as an engineer or a scientist. Somebody's good at languages, etc. And that is what makes life so interesting. So meeting different people and looking at the world which is around us, which is so diverse, and that is the richness, and that is what I think that we appreciate. If we have an open mind and we want to embrace that richness, I believe that actually is the secret. You know, having an open mind and embracing the richness and diversity.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I pick up the word richness. Diversity means richness. Very important, powerful findings from this diversity. I would go Australia now. Dr. Rashid, the word we heard from Dr. Peter is diversity means richness. So what's your observation? And if you can give us some information about the diverse environment in Australia, especially how you're coping with different people from different background, please.
Well, in Australia, we, you know, in 50s, 60s, we had what we call White Australia policy. And that was, of course, the man-made disaster that led to almost annihilations of the Aboriginal Australians. We knew that. So the people realized that, but then they have adopted something, what the beautiful policy they call diversity or multiculturalism. So Australian Constitution guarantees freedom of choice and religion and multiculturalism. So this is the country in the world where people are living with their faith and differences. Not only that they're enjoying it, but they're celebrating it. This is very important. So here in Australia, from government point of view, it's a policy this is people's psyche that to celebrate diversity. If you were to come to Australia in 50s, 60s, maybe you would have a lot of steaks around here. But now you come to Australia, you will see a bit of every piece of the world, starting from biryani to whatever it is, African food, Iraqi food. That is what the life
About
is
English food, fish and chips.
Yes, English food, if you are very keen on that. If you don't like it in the UK, you can try it here in Australia as well. So, yes, it is here. So actually the life is extremely rewarding in Australia. We are very grateful to have a huge continent and a very diverse situations where multiculturalism is guaranteed by law, and it is actually in the letter and practice. So we say not only that we are enjoying it, but we are celebrating it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Beautiful. We are talking about food. We can see the food, especially the place I'm living in, Birmingham. You'll see English restaurants, you'll see Italian, you see Bangladeshi, Indian, Moroccan. Also, you see Arabian, so many restaurants and food, beautiful food, Turkish. I sometimes, we go out and have food from different places. While we enjoy food, we enjoy different flowers in the garden. What's wrong to enjoy different people of different look and sizes and culture? Why sometimes we see the problem? We listen from Mr. George King. If you can explain, we see the beauty in everything. Why sometimes we don't see the beauty in mankind, in diversity or differences?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think for many people, it boils down to fear, and I say that to anybody who might be listening, who might have that tendency to be to have that kind of prejudice towards people of a different background, either different color or different. I see particularly in certain groups here in Birmingham. But the interesting thing at the same time, while that does exist, is that we all seem to congregate together nonetheless, and it's an unfortunate thing that can happen. And we have that tendency, we have weakness in our hearts. And we give into that sometimes. And we need to learn to get over our ignorance and get over our desire to just stay in our own comfort zone with the people that are just like us. We are enriched by stepping outside of our comfort zone and getting to know people from a different background and learning to try some of these other foods that maybe you've never tried before. So it's really worth it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. My same question is with Dr. Abu Ibrahim. As we see the beauty in diversity everywhere, when you see the mountain, you see the hills, you see the plain lands, you see different big trees, small tree, and flowers in the garden, everything we enjoy. If you see the garden of only one flower, you don't go there. When you see the other garden with many flowers and many fragrances. So what's wrong? How we can break this barrier? And we, as George King says, is ignorance. So could you explain about this, how we can bring the barrier of our mindset and how we can bring beauty in human being, please?
I think there's two things we need to appreciate here. First and foremost is that when we look to the diversity in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is in fact bringing our intention to his greatness. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he could have made, for example, all of the fishes in the sea the same color. I tell you why. Whenever we cook something, samak in Arabic or masters we say in Bengali, you cook it, in the end, the color is not the thing that gives it the flavor. It could all be gray and it would still taste lovely for us, I'm sure. but yet Allah, He made it all different for us. Why? So that we can appreciate His greatness in the creation. And you mentioned, for example, the issue of mountains and the sky. I mean, one of the things we need to do is be not narrow-minded, but broad-minded, and to appreciate diversity. And I give you an example. When we look to the creation, even when you go and travel, and one of the things we should do is travel to avoid being narrow-minded. Allah said, "Fasiru fil ard." Go and travel the earth. Go and learn about humanity, society, cultures. Go and travel. One of the things you notice, even when you fly, is that even the clouds are not the same. There are different types of clouds as you go through different heights in the sky. Now, the clouds could have all been the same. So even if you look out the window as you're traveling on a plane, you marvel at the creation. And then, in effect, that brings your attention to the creator of the creation and his greatness. So if we appreciate that, first and foremost, that the creation is wonderful only because the creator himself is great. And then we appreciate the diversity is there for us to appreciate his greatness. So when we look to people, let us be broad-minded. Let us not be narrow-minded. Go and travel. Go and see people. Immerse yourself in their culture. Only recently, I came back from Bangladesh. Although I'm a British Imam, one of the things that caught the most attention on social media, my post, is when I wore the longi, which is the lower garment. It's like a towel. You wear this, and everyone's like, "Great, Sheikh, you look wonderful in it." As though I never wear
say man's skirt. She was explaining my dad is wearing men's skirt.
Yeah, I mean, it's very relaxing to wear. And in a hot country, it makes sense to wear that rather than a three-piece suit. So again, to appreciate diversity, the culture, and, culture adapts to a climate. Hot country, you find different types of food, different types of clothing, and even different pace of speaking. In, say, for example, in America, in New York, they speak very fast. When you go to the South America, it's very slow. Different lifestyle altogether. So I think we need to not be narrow-minded. I want to add that point here. Not to be narrow-minded, but be broad-minded, because Allah SWT is broad in his greatness. And that's the thing, that God is great. God is broad in his mercy and his magnificence. And we should appreciate that. That's the message I want to send through to the listeners.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Viewers and listeners, brothers and sisters, today we are discussing about unity in diversity. It's a beautiful topic. We must try to understand this. We have to find a point, a platform for unity. We will be diverse always. Human history, if you look at the human history, you will see the differences in faith, differences in colors, differences in sizes, and differences in culture and everything. But we have to work together to narrow down the differences and make a platform where we can stand together and we say, yes, we are human. So let's come back to Dr. Peter again. Dr. Peter, you have been visiting many religious places, and of course, you are meeting with different people. Do you have a hope for the future? We can bring a beautiful society where people will be more educated and they will be understanding the importance of unity and they will be working together. What's the aspiration?
Yes, the answer, very definitely. Because we live in a globalized world. People travel more now than they used to, whether on business or whether it is on holiday, and people are exposed to different cultures to a greater extent than previously. We have the internet. I mentioned earlier on that I worked in Maldives and I worked in the Institute of Health Science when I was there. That was over 20 years ago that I worked there. And some of my ex-students still contact me and like my posts on Facebook and so forth. So the travel, the media, social networking, social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we're all communicating with each other across the world. And if I look at all of my friends on social media, I would say that probably 60 to 70% of them don't live in England. They live across the world in different countries. We cannot turn the clock back. So globalization is with us. Globalization is going to move on. If we look at Birmingham, maybe 50 years ago, it would be relatively monoculture. Okay, but now I would say that it is one of the most diverse cities, certainly within UK and probably within Europe. And as people move around, so one time when people came from Bangladesh, for example, or people came from India, they would live in one particular part of the city. Nowadays, people are moving across the city, so that everywhere is becoming increasingly diverse. And that is going to continue. So the people who live next door to me, for example, they are from Iran. Okay. Now, 20 years ago, they would have been from England, not from Iran. Okay. I have a son who is married to someone from China. I have a granddaughter, who has just married somebody from Turkey. Okay. And she's about to have a child, which will be my granddaughter, who's going to be called Melek. Okay, and those of you who are familiar with that language will know that Melek means angel. Okay, so I am very optimistic because we're going to see more intermarriage as the years go by. We see more mixed races, and the more that occurs, the more we understand each other and we appreciate. And I come back to that same word again, is richness. And there was a time within history where Christians felt, that everybody had to be Christian, that if you were going to be saved and you were going to go to heaven, the only way of achieving that was through Jesus Christ. I think that most of us Christians nowadays are more enlightened than that, and we realize that there are many routes to God. And therefore, we want to work together. We want to cooperate, not compete.
Okay, thank you very much. So cooperating, not to conflict. This is a very beautiful message again from you. Dr. Rashad, I'm coming to you to ask about, from Muslim point of view, as you are one of the great scholars and also you have written book about Quran, the authenticity of Quran. Let's take the message from Quran from you about the future of the world, how we are getting ready to embrace all together, and what is the message for unity from Quran? If you can illustrate a little bit. You have hinted already, so if you can illustrate a little bit more, please. Especially, I would like to, Dr. Rashad, sorry, I'm holding you with just 1 second. When the God is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَىٰ كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. So God is inviting to come to a common word among the people of books. So God is inviting, in fact. So could you explain the Islamic point of view about unity?
All right, I did write in my things here 3 verses that are directly related. Number 1 is the one I already explained to you. Number 2 is a quote unquote. It is وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالِمِينَ. It's part of Allah's signs, God's signs. It says to be a sign of God is a great deal. Means by contemplating in this, you can discover God. So what is a sign? It is a part of God's signs that He created the heavens and earth. So heaven and earth, don't take it for granted. Look into it, find out as to how it came to be. Also, that He created the variety of your languages and colors. It's fantastic. The Quran says, وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. The fact that God gave you ability to speak different languages and that you are diverse in various cultures are indeed the signs for God, for you to enjoy it, to celebrate it, not for you to be different, rather to embrace each other and not to be monotonous, rather to be different and to enjoy it. As I said, as we don't like the same food every day, God said the same colors, the different colors is a different language also for you to enjoy. Indeed, there are many lessons for the people of science. Inna fi dhalika la'ayatin lil'alimin. It's alim, means people of knowledge, people of science. The people who appreciates, who knows how to embrace science and knowledge, they can learn a great lessons from this diversity. Quran, chapter 30, verse 22. There can be no more emphatic message than this to say the variations, that your diversity is indeed not only that desired, rather it is planned in a way for you to embrace it. How better a message can be better than this? Third verse that is directly relevant in the Quran says, "Lakum dinukum waliyadin." It means you, O humanity, or those who opted not to believe in Islam, you have a religion of your choice, which is fine by me. But please let me have the same. Let me have my own. With that, lakum dinukum waliyadin, you have a religion of your choice. Please let me have mine. How better? Where on earth you can have a better language of neutrality and acceptance than this, which is part of my ideology and my faith, revealed by God word for word, letter for letter. So there is none in the world, nowhere in another book of ideology you will find this message of diversity, embracement of diversity, and accepting of diversity as clear as this. Muslims don't know what the Quran is, and unfortunately we fail to deliver to the world how beautiful the Quranic message is to embrace the humanity on humanity only. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful message from Muslim perspective about unity in diversity. We'll be listening from George King, the pastor of Baptist Church in UK, Birmingham, from Christian point of view about the diversity. And also my special question, what are the messages from Christianity about diversity and accepting other faiths and the coexistence? Mr. George King, please.
Yes, thank you. As pastor of a Baptist church, that the Baptist church is one of those segments in the Christian world that is you could view it as an example of diversity within Christianity, because we as Baptists, although I'm not, I'm first and foremost a follower of Jesus Christ as the only one I can look to save me from my sins and to be right before God in the day of judgment. That there are things about being in a Baptist church that are different than being in other types of churches, and so that you see some diversity there. One of the things that that Baptists tend to have stood for over the years, the centuries, is an idea called individual soul liberty, and it's the idea that's born out of the scriptures itself, where each person has to stand before God themselves, and therefore, if each person must stand before God themselves in the day of judgment, then they must be given the liberty to make their choices about worship and to who to listen to, which prophet, to whose voice to listen to, because there are true prophets and false prophets according to Islam and according to Christianity. This is just the fact of the matter. So we have to have the freedom to believe according to our conscience, and so I'm very thankful that I have the freedom to do that. I didn't grow up in a home where this kind of idea was taught. I came to it as an adult, and so I'm very thankful. I think everybody everywhere should have that freedom to look and find God and investigate independently, without pressure from any authority or in pressure from even family as to the right way to believe about things, because ultimately it's not what my family thinks, it's not what the government thinks or the religious authority, it's what God thinks that matters to all of us. And so that's where we must find ourselves. So this idea about diversity must be part and parcel of that whole conversation about faith, because without the opportunity to have diversity and freedom, which is really what at the root of it, in terms of your conscience and your mind and everything, then you don't have anything. If you don't have that freedom, then what you're doing is enforcing uniformity instead of real unity. And so, yeah, may we always have that heart to seek these things out.
Okay, thank you very much. Beautiful. We heard about the unity and diversity from the religious point of view from our Muslim and Christian scholars and the guests and faith leaders. Viewers and listeners, this is a beautiful topic today we have been discussing. I think this will benefit you. This will open the eyes of many conservative people, those who think, okay, this world is only for me, only for my faith. Actually, we have to get out of this kind of narrowness. If my religion is true religion, and this is the people who to decide and accept my religion, we should be in an open market. We should present the good message and good positivity of our religion. The good message of our religion is the people to decide whether they want to take Muslim religion, because Islam says, no, you're not allowed to force anyone to become Muslim. And similarly in Christianity, as we heard from our scholars in different conversation. So I'd like to ask Dr. Abu Ibrahim about forcing people to accept religion. Is it allowed in Islam?
I think it's a very good point to really question ourselves about, because why is it that, for example, some Muslims have the mindset of polarizing the world in the sense that everyone has to be a Muslim, and if they're not, then they're the other. When in fact, our religion doesn't teach us that. It doesn't teach us to live in a world where everything is polarized, it's either Muslims or non-Muslim. It rather, first and foremost, it gives you what is known as freedom of religion. So when Allah says in the Quran, La ikraha fid din, there is no compulsion in religion. Allah is not asking anyone to be forcefully brought into Islam. Either you're guided and you choose it, or you are able to leave it. That is the choice that you have. So what that in effect teaches us is that our mindset should not be about being polarized, them and us, but about coexistence. We live together and we appreciate different people's differences. Why? Because they're allowed to be different. They're allowed to hold on to their faith. They're allowed to hold on to their practices. And no matter how much we see it as different from us, the fact is we can't force them to change this unless it is something they do by their own free will. And this is something that our religion sanctifies for them. And that's why we should live in coexistence. And this is one of the things we find from the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he actually made hijrah, which is migrated from Mecca to Medina to in effect establish Dar Islam, a land of Islam. When he went there, he did not force the Ahl al-Kitab, the people of the book, the Jews or the Christians, to embrace Islam forcefully. No, rather he said to them, you keep hold of your religion, you keep hold of your tradition. Now, sometimes if we have this mindset in our heads, and I'm saying some Muslims that everyone has to be Muslims, otherwise they're damned or so on, then we have the wrong mindset. We don't have the mindset of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was sent as a mercy, rahmatan lil alameen, the whole of mankind. And he respected the whole of mankind. And then thus we find the Prophet, what he would do when he would receive guests, whether they be Christians, whether they be Jews, whether they be from any faith, and he would teach them and treat them with respect. And he would drink even from the same cups. He would drink the same water, the same milk. And this is called coexistence. This is called having respect for one another, respecting diversity, and realizing that if Allah had intended, if God had intended, then he would have made us all one religion and we could have had no choice in the matter. Rather, he gave us this choice. And that's why we, as talking from the perspective of the Muslim community, we need to appreciate other people's cultures and diversity and their faith and learn about coexistence more than to live in polarized worlds. And I think this is sometimes the problems that we find in humanity and in the world today.
Thank you very much, viewers and listeners. We have been discussing about unity in diversity. If you like our discussion, if you think it will benefit you and benefit others, please like, comment, and share. Also subscribe our YouTube channels. As we don't do our talk show very long, because sometimes the listeners, they lose their patience. Also, they miss out the very important points from the discussion. We'll be concluding in a few minutes after taking the final message from our guest. So please stay with us. I'll be requesting Dr. Peter to share the final message about how we can get more people actively involved in this kind of discourse and discussion, understanding and education as well, educating ourselves about unity.
Yes, interesting. Can I just pick up a point that George made? There is an assumption that all Christians think the same, and of course that is not the case. Because we have a main, I'm going to use the word division, but I don't think division is quite the right word. It probably would have been at one stage. Because Catholics think about some things in a particular way and Protestants think in a different way. And then even within Protestants, there's a whole range from what the Baptists think to what the Methodists think to what the Anglicans think and so forth. And the same applies in other religions as well. There is this assumption that we all think the same. But what is important is that we have space to be different, that we are thinking people. You know, we have the ability to work things out for ourselves. And given that ability, it is a matter of choice, therefore, on how we practice our religion. Christianity has basically two tenets. You know, one is to love God, and the other is to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, when we look at all religions, that is pretty basic for every religion. We may interpret it slightly differently. So when we think about charity, you know, okay, well, that is part of love, isn't it? You know, the way we treat our neighbor, you know, the being polite, being respectful, all those things, it all comes down to the way in which we love our neighbor. So we do have so much in common. So how do we embrace more people into this discussion? I think by being open. By doing the very thing that we are doing on this program, by openly discussing it, recognizing that there are differences, not being defensive about it, but allowing people to express their views and accepting that there are differences, but we want to work together in cooperation.
Beautiful, beautiful. We got the message from Dr. Peter about, you know, working together, inviting other people to our places, and we should be visiting other people's places as well. We should be working together, the faith leaders. I would like to hear from Dr. Rashid about the importance of inviting people to our places and sitting together, having meal together. Sometimes even I've seen some places, even in the Muslim community, if I sit with a Christian, some people will be thinking, oh, he's sitting with a Christian. What is happening? Is it something wrong with him? So this kind of perception could happen. Vice versa, maybe if I'm sitting with George or Peter and any Christian from his church, he sees, oh, he's sitting with a man with this attire. Something going wrong with Dr. Peter or George King. So please,
Dr. enjoyed the times when we've been to the Minaret Foundation and we had a beautiful meal.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. So Dr. Rashid, if you can explain about importance of having more dialogues and visiting places and standing in one platform.
Okay, I will probably enlighten the participants with this verse, the one that you have drawn my attention to. قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله. And so this is the message of the Quran, the message from Muslim point of view to all other faith, people of belief, that be that people of the book, the fantastic word the Quran has gifted to humanity, to the people of the book. The word is called people of the book. Means what? We don't call you Christians, we don't call you Jew, we call you people of the book, people who have been gifted with the book from God. This is money cannot buy. It's a fantastic gift. So God says to the Prophet to make this invitation. Qul, O Prophet, you invite them. What? Ta'alaw ila kalima sawa. Come to a common platform, common word, which is common, unite us and you together. Us means Muslims, you means people of the book. That Allah na'budu illallah, that we worship none but God. Bible is replete with the invitation to worship God. Well, that is what the Quran says. And وَلَا يَتَّخِذَ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ, that we do not adopt humans among us as Lord, that can be a peer of God. Don't do that. So in our behavior, if we avoid that, we go to the God who is the creator for all of us. That is the invitation the Quran gives to all of us. And the fantastic word, instead of saying the Jews, Christians, enemies, Others, the word the Quran gave is, "O people of the book," the most respectable word. So I want today's people to go out with that particular very inviting message from the Quran to anyone who happened to have a faith or opted to have no faith. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. You have a religion of your choice, which I accept, but please let me have mine. Man, where on earth you can have a better message than this? You have a religion of your choice, which I accept and respect. Please let me have mine, quote unquote. That is the message of the Quran. Quran is misunderstood. Islam is misunderstood by humanity. But from this part, all you have is acceptance and respect. Thank you very much.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful explanation about the call from Quran to stand together. Beautiful. So we'll be listening from final message from George King. George King, as I addressed you as a brother in the beginning, and there was a beautiful question from a Muslim brother. He said, can we say any person from other faith as a brother, address as a brother? I said, why not? He said, innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun. God says the believers, they are all brothers. So I said, but the God never said you don't say the people of other faith, your brothers. As human being, we are son of Adam. So we are brothers, nothing wrong. So these kind of sometimes misunderstandings keeps us away. As Dr. Peter said, we invited him in a mosque, and I visited many churches. Do you think that we should be inviting more people to the churches and have more dialogues, and vice versa? And the Muslim people, they should be inviting the people of other faith in the mosque. So is Mr. George King, please.
Yes, I agree with everything you just said, that it's a positive thing, a good thing for people to get together and understand each other. It's not enforcing the idea that we must believe the same thing or think the same way about things. That's not what this is about. It's about understanding and getting removing the ignorance by means of knowledge. And also, when you do that, you remove some of the fear that people have, and that hesitancy that keeps people apart. When we live next door to each other and yet refuse to talk to each other, not because of any malice, but simply because of fear. So I think the more we can overcome by means of just stepping outside of our comfort zone and being a good neighbor. I mean, that's loving our neighbor. Then it can only be good. That's all I can say about that. It's the best thing we can do, and we're responsible to do it. As people of faith, to love our neighbor as ourselves, and that means, of course, if I love myself, which I should, we do by nature. We take care of ourselves. We clothe ourselves. We feed ourselves. We love ourselves, and we are responsible before God to love other people as much as we love ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Beautiful expression about working together, loving people from different faith point of views. My last question is Dr. Abu Ibrahim, Shaykh Dr. Abu Ibrahim. Do you think this kind of discourses we are having in a small scale, our viewers sometimes is 1,000 or more than that, sometimes a bit less. Do you think we should be having more discourses and discussion and make the platform for people they can come and discuss, and they can explore about having more understanding and respect about each other? So if you can share your final message about this, please.
Yes, I believe we should do. And even though this is a live feed at the moment, there may be so many people watching. Hopefully we'll put the recording back up. The whole idea of the Institute putting these videos out and facilitating these sort of dialogue is that we should engage our community to discuss the matters. Obviously, we've been selected so that we speak with some sort of knowledge and authority on the topic, but that's not to say that the vast numbers of viewers from around the world should not also contribute to the discourse and the discussion. I mean, one of the things I want to say is that as Muslims, we should appreciate what Islam is, what it means to be a Muslim. And quite often, one of the things we don't appreciate is that we believe Islam is all about submission. I mean, istislam lillahi tawheed, which is to submit to Allah. But we don't understand that the word Islam also came from the root Arabic word, which means peace, salam. And one of the things we've been taught is that to give salam, afshu salam, give salam, peace to people. Now, if you appreciate that Islam is about peace, then your whole mindset, the way you conduct yourself in society, you start off from a point of peace, means you're not in conflict with people. You're not in conflict with, for example, your neighbor or the rest of society. That's not to say that when there is a conflict that Islam doesn't want to deal with it and Muslims shouldn't address it, but the natural state, the equilibrium should start from the point that you are starting from a point of peace with yourself, with your Lord and your community and your neighborhood and so on. So you start off in that sort of state unless you find conflict. So I think we need to truly understand what it means to be a Muslim. So especially if we live in the West, that I have Christian neighbors, I have Jewish neighbors, and I treat them as my neighbors. They're my neighbors, my jar, as they say in Arabic. And I treat them with the same respect I would expect anyone to give me, because I'm a human being at the end of the day. And really, this is what we want to start off with a state of peace. And if we start with the state of peace, then we can open dialogues and then talk about things that we don't like, things that conflict in the world within our own community. And let's try to address this, because unity and diversity is coming together for a common purpose. Remember, for the betterment of humanity. We're all united, Ibn Adam. We're united as human beings. So really, I think we should do more and more programs like this. And I hope our viewers will engage, because the reason putting our faces out there and our names out there is that we want you to engage with us as well. We want you to engage with the platform as well as the Institute. And this way, it will encourage us to facilitate more of these discussions, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Our time is almost over, and I apologize with the guest. I couldn't allocate enough time for you for the discussion, especially Dr. Rashid. He's waking up and he's sharing his thoughts about this beautiful subjects. We'll have more dialogues and discussion, and from London Islamic Research Academy, we'll try to have at least once in a month discourses and discussion about interfaith, and even helping the humanity from religious point of view, common issues, not just having the differences of faith. So we'll have more topics and more discussion. Till then, please stay with London Islamic Research Academy. So guests, thank you very much again. Dear viewers and listeners, you have been watching very beautiful interfaith dialogue, unity in diversity. I believe you liked it, and if so, please, you can put some positive comments for improvement. You can give us some positive suggestions, and also you can share and subscribe our YouTube channels. Thank you very much for watching. Without further delay, we have to conclude today's program. Stay well, stay safe. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you once again.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.